Good morning, everyone. My name is Warren Curtis Stanfield III, and today I'm going to be talking about double conscious theory, the African American conscience, and the effect that it has on our people and our communities. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, at Henry Ford Hospital, February 19th, 1999, at 11 a.m. My topic for today's podcast will be double conscious theory, a social philosophy referring to the conflicting identities experienced by African Americans made popular by William Edward Bogart Du Bois. The theory suggests that African Americans who've experienced oppression and disenfranchisement invites an identity crisis or a conflict within the mind of African Americans. My podcast will attempt to challenge this theory by referring to the majority minority communities within our country that most African Americans call home. Through exploring the complexities of urban Americanism and inner city pride, I'll challenge the notion that African Americans exist in a perpetual state of conflict by citing anecdotal accounts of regional identification. My major topic will be double conscious theory, while my critical analysis will be whether or not pride in one's local controlled ethnic community is in fact patriotism. Du Bois argues that there can be no identification between those who've been oppressed with their oppressors. This is a reasonable argument, but my challenge comes with his assertion that African Americans' reluctance to identify with his or her white counterparts is unpatriotic. One does not need to be a Caucasian to take pride in his or her country. The theory of double consciousness suggests that due to oppression of African Americans and that which they have experienced, they cannot fully identify with the United States of America, and that they must have two conflicting sets of values as people. However, Caucasians are not overwhelmingly present in African American communities, and in some cases, there are little to none. Take, for example, the community of Highland Park, Michigan, which is 96% African American and 4% white. Take, for example, 7 Mile in the city of Detroit. 7 Mile is an infamous road beloved by many African Americans through the city. Detroit is a major minority community, a city with its own flag. Take a minute to show the city of Detroit's flag. So the city of Detroit has four components to its flag. It has French boutonnieres. It has lions that represent the British colonialist who started the area. Well, actually, the French started the area. This was Antoine de la Monde de Cadillac. Cadillac was sent by the French King Louis IV, and this was an exploratory mission to survey the land, and he ended up loving what he saw strategically. He felt like it was a great place for a community. In French, Detroit means straight. In French, it's pronounced Detroit, and subsequently the British followed. That's why we have these three lions. And another thing about the French before we move on to the two American components, and as well as the cultural components that comprise the center of the flag. One person who is celebrated in Detroit who was a Frenchman, a native Frenchman, is Lafayette. Many people have been to Lafayette, Coney Island, Lafayette Square, Lafayette Park. It's a neighborhood in Detroit. And Lafayette was a 19-year-old who actually was an officer in the American military. He was a Frenchman who decided to fight with the Americans for revolution, and he's really more celebrated in Detroit or in the United States of America than he is in France. These two components are the stars and the stripes. That the stars represent the states, and the stars in Detroit's case represent the communities of the city of Detroit, or some of the neighborhoods of the city of Detroit at the time of the creation of the flag. And the red and white, these represent the blood that has been spilled for this land. And if you look close here, Sempronius Malorum Resurgence in Avernus, from the ashes we saw rise again. So this is this is really a modern history of the city of Detroit. These are this is an example of the race riots and how the city has been on its knees before, but it has risen, and it always will rise. One thing about the people who are depicted in this picture is they are women. They are women of Detroit, in Lansing, where we go to school. East Lansing. But if you've ever been to Capitol, you'll find on one of the markers that the people who decided to move the Capitol from the city of Detroit to the city of Lansing. They cited many reasons, strategic purposes. This is due to the invasion of Canada. Detroit's one of the only city to ever be occupied by a foreign nation, and that was during the War of 1812. And another thing that was cited, I don't know how relevant this is, but the women of Detroit is were cited for a reason that they wanted to move the capital up to Lansing to avoid the influences, whatever that may mean. But this is just a culmination or an example of the melting pot that is our community. One argument that I've made here was just that it's really difficult to say that this double consciousness theory, the way I've always heard it explained, was that you have an identity as an African American, and you as an African, and you have an identity as an American, and these are two conflicting identities. But I always thought that if someone's like, even you might call it gang banging, but I call it like regional identification in one's community. If somebody's like set tripping or taking pride in their local community, then that in a way is patriotism. If you have love for 8 Mile, and 8 Mile is in the city of Detroit, which is located in the county of Wayne, which is located in the state of Michigan, which is located in the United States of America, that is patriotism. Now, this patriotism may come over under threat by a gang unit, or a local sheriff, or a county police officer, but these are really that those can also be attributed to racism. There's a rapper who I like a lot. His name is Babyface Ray. He's a guy from my neighborhood. He's a McNichols guy, and Ray's got a lot of good music. Ray's got like tracks. Ray's put a lot of projects together, and I've been following his music for a while. He dropped a song a long time ago called "Whose Beat Is This?" With a guy I went to school with by the name of Eric Thomas. He produced it, and it was one of the best songs I've ever heard. And I always wondered, like, man, like, why didn't this blow up? You know what I mean? Like, why isn't this like a national guy? Well, because I there's so many people out here with like far less work that have like a lot more accomplishments, and I was always wondering to myself, like, why isn't why do certain people not make it to certain heights? And in my own personal opinion, that can be attributed to racism and regionalism. A lot of times, like some of our artists and some of our creators from the city of Detroit don't, necessarily get the platform that other artists or creators get, because these areas, these 6 miles, these 7 miles, these are African American communities to the core. These are Black communities. So if there is someone from this area, and they do well, and they've shown that they don't want to leave this area, that they want to stay true to this area, they don't want to be anywhere else. This is where they were born and bred. They still continue to take pride. They immortalize their, not immortalize, but they memorialize their areas. They might have an emblem or something on their chest that they wear with that says that I am from this community. This is my land. This is my home. That is patriotism, but that is patriotism that can come under scrutiny for racism, and that's something that I feel like double consciousness theory is really something that could be attributed to African American communities in order to split us up from the identification of our land. Because from James Baldwin's perspective, yeah, I might misquote him here, but it was, "What if I told you that all of this was yours? It was your people who built this land. It was your people who laid the bricks of the foundation of this land." And it's not that I don't feel like there are conflicting identities within the community. At times, I myself find some conflictions. When I'll be at Michigan State, or or just like one of my home communities in one of the communities in Southeast Michigan where I call home, and I'll experience racism, and I'll say to myself like, man, this is unfortunate that I'm experiencing this in my own home, somewhere where I've been born and raised, but I feel like that is an attempt to get you to stop this identification with your area, your territory, your community, because when we continue to identify with these African American communities, and we don't leave these areas, and they aren't open for what is quote unquote called gentrification, a term that I could touch on and maybe later in the podcast, or in because I still got some script that I'm off the top of my head trying to get off, but it's what I'm really trying to get at here is that oftentimes African Americans are demonized for or criminalized for taking pride in their own communities, when really that's a street in America, and that's why I feel like urban patriotism is really something that's in contrast to the theory of double consciousness. My grandfather he was a World War II naval veteran. He grew up in Arkansas. He grew up in Prairie View, Arkansas. That's a rural community, and he signed up at 19 and 41. He wasn't drafted. You know what I mean? He put his name in the bucket, and this just goes to show that while you may have experienced something in your home, or in on your land, that does not necessarily split you from your ability to identify and become a patriot, and continue to be a patriot and have love for your own community. And that's really what this is all about. For me, this is an African American studies class, and I'd like to really like set the tone that that in certain communities, we have cultures. We like this is in the city of Detroit. This is a city where we had a black mayor who was the longest serving mayor of any mayor, and Coleman A. Young. We've had Dave Bings. We've had some characters who were not great, you know, and some people who had less than honorable experiences, but we still have been able to govern. We've sent many boys to the greatest wars. And it's one another picture that I have. This is a picture from McNichols, that community that I was talking about. I went to Jesuit Catholic school. It's all McNichols. When I went to Jesuit Catholic, my mother was getting her graduate degree from Detroit Mercy. And one thing that I always took note of in the parish was the honor roll. And what the honor roll was, you'll see here. I don't know if you get a good look at this. The honor roll is where Jesu decided to put, and Jesu is Italian for Jesus. It's pronounced Jesu, but I said Jesu. And these are all McNichols boys. You'll find a lot of African Americans on this wall. These are all boys who decided to sign up, or some of them were drafted, but they fought for what they believed in, and they fought for their country. And really, I feel like urban patriotism is often, people often discourage urban patriotism, and I think that's unfortunate because those people also love their communities. And I'm not accusing Mr. Du Bois of accusing every African American of hating their country. Not at all. I'm just trying to provide another perspective, or my perspective, on this. But as I was saying, in telling his story, I intend to communicate that I am not entirely opposed to the idea of holding angst, bitterness, or the slightest bit of animosity towards this country that has oppressed you. I am only stating or asserting that not every African American has experienced the same amount of prejudice throughout their life. So that may play a role in how much you love your country and how much you call it home. If you grew up in rural Arkansas in the 1930s, you probably wouldn't have too much nice to say about the country. Even if your home life was swell, you'd be consistently reminded of the racial turmoil that this country was forged in and by. and that has been sustained. It's been sustained through another piece about Arkansas. You know, there was a man in the 1920s. His name was Jonathan Carter. He was lynched in front of the state capitol on a light pole on by an angry mob that was looking for the killer of a young lady, and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And it was very unfortunate. They ended up tying him to the back of a post, and they drug him through Ninth Street. I feel like that's where the theory of double consciousness was forged from. People who just were unable to, feel any kinship towards this land because it showed them no kinship at all. Now, I'm not. What I'm trying to do here is establish that there are multiple different perspectives and there are multiple different consciousness to the idea of patriotism and identification in one's community. This it's a complex theory. We are complex people. We are people. So this is. And I hope that one day someone will possibly see my podcast or my perspective on this and critique it, because that's how we learn as people. That's how we become better learners, and that's how we like grow as people by learning each other's perspectives. But like I was saying, in rural Arkansas, you might be called the N word far more than you would your own name. But if you grew up Detroit, you're in Detroit, your fears of a lynching or being called the N word by a white counterpart, they'd be far less. If you experienced less racism and you grew up in maybe like a bubble, so to speak, and you spent your most of your days in Wayne County, you might have a bit more of a patriotic attitude towards your country because really you haven't experienced too much that's uh, you know, that's intended to get you to hate this land, because that's what a lot of racism is about. Is the attempt is to tear you down and to get you on the stoop and to make you feel less than a great American, and that's what you are. If you're waking up every day and you're getting to it and you're attempting to better yourself, you're a great American. At the bottom of the Statue of Liberty, it says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses," and that's what America is about. That's what this country is about. That's what this land is about. This is a land of immigrants. This is a land of slaves. This is a land of this is everybody's land. And this is a land of natives. So the idea that a Caucasian could really only be the only person who is who is allowed to be the head or the figure of this land. And the Caucasian is the only person who is allowed to take pride in this land. That's a theory that I would like to challenge and dispel because that's ignorance. The white race is not the only race that has played a role in the building of this great civilization. And my goal here is really to allow us to or to inspire us to run for office, to serve if that's what you do, because this is your land, this is my land, from Rhode Island to California land. But either way, um, now one may argue that double conscious theory and its theorization of self is formed from our own experiences with others, and as Du Bois may argue, how they view us. I am definitely in agreement that our accumulated experiences help define who we are as ourselves. I am also in agreement that most of us have two selves, that self that we want the world to see and the self that we hide. Du Bois argues that two-ness means that within the process or self-formation that the radicalized takes the position of two different worlds. The black world, which they intersubjectively construct behind the veil, and the white world, which dehumanizes them through a lack of recognition. This lack of recognition and how it forms is a common construct even in today's society. But the two are not black and white. There are grays, areas of self-identification. In today's society, we can choose what we take influence from. We have Condoleezza Rice, we have Kamala Harris, we have who- drawing a blank right now. She's a congresswoman from New York. Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm said it best. If they don't give you a seat at the table, bring a folding chair. It's one of those things where people want you to be disenfranchised. People want you to not be a patriot because when you aren't at the table, you won't have a say in how they draw the lines, how they draw the maps up, and what happens to your community. And what I would like to do is to inspire our youth to really like take pride in their communities, because when you take pride in your communities and you take leadership in your communities, you can change your community. We have a lot of people out here, especially our young people out here, who do love their country or love their community, and they want to see it just be better or be great. I work in a legislative office, and we went to the project where we asked the children of Hamtramck to paint us what they would like their community to look like. And this is what we got back. We got beautiful, colorful pictures. This is this is how they see their community, and this is what they want their community to be. This is all in America. These are all Americans. These are all people who, whether or not they were born here, they love it here, and they have every right to. In a community like Hamtramck, that's a true American community. That's an immigrant community. They call Hamtramck the little world. You can get everything out there. You can get a punchki, you can get some Yemen cafe, and you can get it all in America. So my goal here is to really bring forward that feeling that I felt on November 3rd, 2008, when Barack Obama was elected president. You know, Selenia, this is my land. A Tui Bor, a prideful call to identify with what is rightfully yours and to take leadership. And that's my podcast.